The world unfolds differently for each of us. Why? Where do the rules come from? Within each of us, there is a unique philosophy shaping our thoughts, beliefs, feelings, worldviews, and actions. This is Inner Dialogues with Ecem, an introspective space for curious souls and minds. This is where you get to understand your individual philosophy that writes the script of your life. This is where we unveil the inner wisdom that guides you. Yep, that was your inner sage knocking the door. Let's go and chat with him. Hi, it's Ecem. Welcome back to Inner Dialogues with me. Today's episode is going to be one of those connecting the dots one. I have a couple of different free-floating ideas in my mind, or better to say, new perspectives about my life, maybe even reflections. I'm sure they are connected in some way, but let's try to find the connection together, shall we? The period that I'm in for a while right now is a transition period, and I would say for majority of people whom I know, whom I follow, whom I listen to, is going through the same period of transition. In these phases of transitions, we may feel like something is coming, but we cannot really know what it is yet. We may want to rush it in order to know it, but things don't work like that. Transformation has its own timing in each being. Transition periods also has this feeling of detachment from past patterns, experiences, and beliefs. We may feel totally not belong to who we were, what we did, what we believed in, whom we surrounded ourselves with, and even where we lived in. But at the same time, there may be this longing for an attachment, for more aligned support systems, beliefs, mindsets, places to live, and people to connect with. I read a quote a while ago emphasizing quote-unquote loneliness of transition periods. I wish I can find it again, but how that quote echoed in me was this feeling of hanging in between, not feeling belonged in the past patterns, but also not really either knowing what it should be like or accumulating new experience and intentional action so that you can live in what is aligned with your newer self. Therefore, transition periods may create this sense of loneliness. And my understanding of loneliness is not just not having people around you. It's like a wide spectrum of various factors, like not being and feeling understood, not feeling like you have a contribution to make in the environment you are in, not feeling aligned and belonged in the places you live, and of course, people you surround yourself with. A couple of weeks ago, I realized my coping mechanism with this period of transition. I think it can be called a coping mechanism, but let me share it with you and you can name it however you want. I said to my parents a couple of weeks ago that I feel like I'm in a bubble. I feel like I created this bubble to myself with people from all across the globe. I feel like we see each other with those people. Our hearts are close with them. We listen to each other. And if you're listening to this podcast right now, you know you're in that bubble for me. You've been with me since day one of constructing this new reality for me without me even knowing it at first. I connected with those people with my heart. But why do I say that it is a bubble? Because I think, except a couple of them, we're not sharing the same time zone and country with them. I live in Turkey, but my mind and my connections are not here. This feels like a bubble for me in a place I live in. Let's rewind the tape a bit. For a while now, I'm feeling like I'm parting my ways with most of my friends. A while ago, when I realized this, I stopped and looked at my surroundings. I realized I created a whole community of people all around the world. To some I get to call friend, to some I get to call peer, to some client, to some coach, to some colleague. The title doesn't matter. I realized that for the last 2 years, I've created myself a whole different reality, and that reality required and got supported with different kinds of people. I had a job which put me in a whole different world where I felt seen and belong. After 8 months or so, I found myself in a different community where I got my training to be a certified life coach. In exactly the first year of my job, I started seeing clients alongside my coaching training. I didn't know back then that coaching would lead me to a whole different world. So much so that I get to quit my job just after 1.5 years and get to start my own business. I knew all of this. I was aware of the timeline of how things happened, but I've never put them into pen and paper, which is now giving me a bird's eye perspective of the new reality that I'm constructing for the last 2 years. My friends are starting to get engaged and married. I'm going to attend a couple of weddings in the upcoming weeks. And funny enough, it's not the fact that they're getting married or starting new careers is causing us to part our ways. It's the change of our realities. It is what we want to do with our life. It is how we want to see the world we live in. I know that parting ways with people is a natural process in growing. As my reality changes, the people around me supporting that reality comes into play, and the ones who don't support that reality leaves the play for now, or maybe for the rest of my time here on the stage of my life. 2 or 3 days ago, I watched an interview of a Turkish YouTuber who creates content on Turkish TV series with his unique, funny, but criticizing manner. There he said his life consists of 3 people: his wife, daughter, and himself, and sometimes a video editor, and that's it. And also his office is at downstairs where he films content and videos. The only time he realizes that he is famous and known is when he goes outside. Outside of what? That was the question that I asked myself. Of course, it was obvious outside of his house. But for me, outside of his bubble. For me, this is a bubble consisting of 3 and sometimes 4 people. I feel like working from home have created the tendency of creating our own bubbles. Remember those pandemic days? Everything was less in terms of people we got into contact with, places we went to, people we spoke to, experiences we got to live. Almost the whole world ended up going back to their personal bubble. And I feel like since then, this idea of bubble or this way of living through a bubble stuck with me. Or my need of exposing myself to more than what it is needed has got lessen in time, if that makes sense. Less is more. We all heard that saying. If it isn't serving me, it is better not to go there. Connect with that person, keep the relationship or friendship up and running, whatever. This idea of bubble has almost become my arena of flourishing. It has become a conscious and intentional way of building a newer version of me. It has become my medium in this period of transition. It has become my boundary with the past versions of myself with which I don't feel totally aligned with anymore. There's a great Turkish podcast series called 111 Hertz by Barış Özcan. He's a great storyteller, in my opinion. I was listening to his recent episodes yesterday. I made a note of the following sentence. To understand if an idea works or not, you need to test it. This reminded me of a thing that my teacher in Reading the Life workshop that I mentioned you before said. She said, we are challenged where we seek strength. Just as weak arms require effort to build muscle, the universe might test your commitment by presenting challenges in those areas in which you want to build strength. The systems we live in asks you, are you sure? By presenting you difficulties in the areas where you want to grow further. Our attitude in that moment or difficulty should be from a point of recalling our intentions in building strength in order to understand the purpose behind the obstacles. Growth mindset. This is what it is. The obstacles in our ways to our goals is not hindrance for us to reach them. Is not a sign from the universe that we should stop chasing them. The obstacles are the times when we should remember our order. What did we order? What did you wish? Let's consider that. What did you wish when you blew out the candles last year on your birthday? What did you wish when you saw a shooting star a couple of years ago? To what you looked at admirably, to what you wish it was yours. We forget these moments, and therefore we forget our orders to the universe. And then a while later, when things starts to change and opportunities for us to grow and become that version we wished a while ago starts to emerge, we may begin moaning. In those times, we should remember all what is happening was our order, was our intention back at some point. To understand if an idea works or not, you need to test it. That obstacle is actually a trial for your wish, your idea to become reality. It is a test for your commitment in your wish. For ideas and wishes to be grounded in reality, they need to be tempered by real-world experience. They must be kneaded with reality and experience. Connecting back to the idea of bubble, I don't remember when and how, but I know that at some time I made a wish to be surrounded with people from all different cultures, people all around the globe. I wanted to have a community scattered every part of this globe. I wanted to have people who are committed in their self-work, in their awareness, and thriving to be better than they were yesterday. I wanted to have a job that will necessitate and require for me to invest in my self-growth and inner work. Building this reality that I live right now took years to make, and it is still happening and growing every day as I put more wishes out there, more intentions out there every day. We all get to choose who we want to be. My medium in doing it is through creating a bubble for now. We all have a right to say, I like this version of me more and I want to grow her or him. I want him or her to expand in most areas of my life. The person I got to be, I got to discover and grow in my previous job. I loved her. I loved her authenticity. I loved the dynamics in which she was intentional with what she was doing. I loved her support mechanisms in her little world that was not valid after she closes her work browser and turns off her laptop. I loved her so much that I wished subconsciously, most of the part, for her to spread through the rest of my life. Outside of the computer, in her country, in her face-to-face relationships. When I discovered what life coaching is and found Jay Shetty Certification School, I was excited. It was an opportunity for me to create that reality that I longed for actively 8 months and subconsciously more and more than that. That opportunity came with challenges, especially financial responsibilities, but it was all a test for my commitment, giving and taking, the balance between the two. In time, the person I was in my bubble has become my prominent and strong side of my personality. But I think there is a trick there. I think it is not about completely who I think I am or who I think what parts I get to choose to define who I am. Let me take you a different time where the sides I have today as my strong parts were in the making. A year ago or so, I said to my friends from uni, whom we shared a small dorm with for 3 years, that I love how I am with our group. The most me version of myself is when I'm with our group. To be honest, I wasn't aware of this until that point. What made me aware of it was the unintended intersection of my different friend groups. In our uni, we have this traditional music festival that happens every year for 3 days, either in May or June. For 3 days, you get together with your friends in the campus and listen to live performances of our university's musical bands. They're not very professional, but you get to sing, dance, and create memories, up until late at night. Last year, we went to the festival with our little dorm group, and I invited my friend from elementary school too. Before the festival, we spent some time in a bar, and I was just having so much fun, even before the festival started, because the opportunity of being with that friend group in which there were some couples at that time, and on top of that, my friend, whom I know since elementary school, was going to come. So it was just a rare moment for me to enjoy and experience with all of them. When my friend from elementary school came and saw me, he was just shocked. For a good hour or so, he was speechless, and I was able to read it from his face too. The reason why he was totally speechless was him witnessing a different part of me. A part and version that is so bubbly, social, joking, sarcastic, and basically like the person in the group who's with the biggest energy, directing the group, hyping everyone up, and sometimes become an energy sucker of others. He hasn't seen this part of me before. And when my dorm mates asked me why he's so silent and shocked, I tried to explain to them, but the real reflection time happened a couple of days later when you do the critic of an event or an experience when the whole of it ends. It was that kind of a time. We were talking about that festival with one of my dorm mates, who is also one of my very, very close friends. And she said to me, she was a bit disappointed how my friend was behaving that day. We had a whole conversation about it. And at the end, I told her that he didn't witness or see this part of me before. And because of that, he was just shocked. As if he got to meet a totally different person there. That was his experience, I believe. And I went on telling her that, but you know what? Seeing his surprisement and sometimes even disappointment in his face gave me some sort of pleasure almost. I was so comfortable in my own skin within our friend group, and seeing him with disappointed looking, I had this feeling of, you know what? I'm having fun with this version of myself right now, and I'm feeling authentically me as who I am right now. So I'm not gonna downplay it or change anything, and that gave me some sort of a pleasure. Saying to her these words made me realize more about the versions I have with different people. At my core, I'm this person, I'm Ecem, but you may agree with this or not, that with different people, a different version of ourselves come to life. This is what I experienced since I knew myself, to be honest. But for the last couple of years, especially for the last 2 years, I realized a lot about this two-level perception, what I like to call. It wasn't about how others were seeing me and causing that part of me to come to life by providing me the space for that sides of me. It was my perception of how they see me was the real case. The first level is how they see me. The second level is what I think about how they see me. And because of the second level, I get to subconsciously or consciously choose to be that version of me. I was a bit more serious person, a bit more philosophical and even dramatic person when I was with my friend from elementary school. I used to love that version of me, now that I remember. When I was in middle school, though, I'm not in middle school right now, and I discovered a newer version of me in university. With my dorm mates, I was the yogi, I was the chieftain, as one of them called me. I was funnier, freer, I was social but needed time to recharge on my own. I was all of this mixture of different sides of me almost. I was this or that when I was with my dorm mates versus when I was with my friend from elementary school, because of my perception of how they saw me, which provided me the space of who I want to be. When I started my coaching training, I came across a quote that was shared by Jay Shetty. The quote is from Charles Cooley, an American sociologist. He says that, "I am not who you think I am. I am not who I think I am. I am who I think you think I am." It took a minute for me to digest when I first heard it. Looking glass self. This is a term that Charles Cooley coined. Feel free to go and read or watch about it. There's a whole plenty of resources explaining it quite simply. I want to share my take on it. The only true experience I have about the world is my own experience of it, right? The only point where I can get close to knowing is myself, my own experience, my feelings, emotions, and perspective. What I understand about the world and others is only a reflection of the understanding I have about myself. If I have a mom who speaks too much, that means I'm watching a part of me who cannot express herself clearly with few words. If I have a friend who's thinking of marriage as a natural step in adulthood and longs for it to have a stable life, that means I'm watching a part of me who longs for stability, whether it is in a relationship or in my personal finances. Our perception of others are reflections of ourselves. Our perception of how others see us is a reflection of the relationship we have with ourselves. I'm not how my parents see me. I'm what I think how my parents see me. I'm what I think how my partner sees me. I'm what I think how my sister or my brother sees me. I'm what I think how my ex-partner sees me. I'm what I think how my closest circle of friends sees me. How my high school friend sees me. How the guy who bullied me in the middle school sees me. Who I am is a construct of introspection and social stimulation. Remember when I said in the previous episode that although I'm an introvert, my brain is almost an extrovert because of its longing for stimulation. I think it is the same case here as well. I'm not saying that our whole identity is a social construct. I think it is a perfect mixture of internalization of how others perceive us. It is almost our response to the assumed perception, which requires a decent amount of introspection. So it wasn't how my former colleagues saw me and created the space and environment for me to enhance the qualities I have today. It was my perception, my understanding of how they saw me, which led me to behave in the ways I behaved. It wasn't about my dorm mates who saw me and thought about which created who I was with them. It was my perception and decision to be a certain version of myself, which I ended up loving so much at that time. In times of transition, I found out that my coping mechanism is my bubble, where I get to form new and fresh connections with newer parts of myself, with whom I think that sees those parts. Before, so to say, opening up myself to the world and expand it to my whole personality, my bubble becomes my personal zone, my prototype of the new reality I wanted to create. What do you think about this? How do you experience the periods of transition? How do you create support mechanisms in which you feel accepted and seen with your newer version? This idea of two-level perception or looking glass self is a whole different topic to discover. If you like us to talk about it, reach out to me. I'd like to discover in further episodes. I'll leave you with a quote that I read yesterday from Yogi Bhajan about this very topic of looking glass self. If you are willing to look at another person's behavior toward you as a reflection of the state of their relationship with themselves, rather than a statement about your value as a person, then you will, over a period of time, cease to react at all. End quote. As our conversation for today fades away, may you find your echoes of it that resonate within you. Thanks for listening today. This is Inner Dialogues with Ecem, a place where you discover your inner you, a place where you belong. Take care. The periods of transitions can be challenging. Sometimes they even require us to mourn a loss of a part of our identity and reality. But at the same time, there's also a big potential in these periods. I supported many people who have moved across continents, started a new life, became a mom, shifted careers. If you're going through a transition period, it is okay to feel whatever you're feeling. But remember that you can create what you want with your life in this new phase. We can create your own bubble where you discover your strengths, the areas you want to further grow, and what to do and what to create with your life from now on. The choice is always yours. If this called out you, listen to your inner voice. It knows everything. You'll find all the details to reach out to me in the episode description.